There is something very special about JRPGs, and as a late bloomer when it comes to this gaming genre, I have found them to be so imaginative, soulful, and wonderfully whimsical. They are not bound by the laws of your usual RPGs, and as a result are often very unique and unpredictable. They have their own set of laws because they are badass barrier breakers, and although they can sometimes be formulaic, that is by no means a bad thing. Hello, I'm Heather at Amalgamingle, and here are my top picks of the best JRPGs of the last decade. Please note that there may be some gameplay spoilers ahead, as I may show footage of in-game rewards and boss battles, but there will be no major story spoilers. Also, some of my entries may surprise you, so please bear in mind that this list is not based on sales statistics or anything like that. It is merely my picks based on the JRPGs that I have actually played and enjoyed. So here we go, here's 5 of the best JRPGs of the last decade. So, first up is Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. In 2018 we were blessed with a beautiful and colourful world to explore set in the land of Erdrea. In a nutshell, the story follows a main protagonist referred to as the Luminary after he discovers the truth about his birth and adoption following a coming of age ceremony. Turns out the Luminary is the legendary hero appointed by the Yggdrasil World Tree, destined to save Erdrea from an incomprehensible evil. The Luminary heads to Heliodor to unravel the mystery of his past and is consequently imprisoned after the king accused him of being an evil entity dubbed the Dark Spawn. He's imprisoned and meets fellow inmate Eric, who helps them both escape, and they embark on an epic quest to save Erdrea and team up with several loyal companions along the journey. The game got positive reviews upon release for its plucky characters, immersive plot, and excellent visuals in a beautifully detailed world. Whilst the game introduces new elements such as a freeform camera in battle and the ability to toggle between 2D and 3D graphic modes in the definitive edition, it manages to retain the charm and many gameplay elements of previous games in the series, such as the classic turn-based combat system and how players can explore worlds and battle various unique-looking monsters. It was actually the graphics that initially drew me to this game, and it seems to be one of those adventures that is suitable for long-time fans of the series and series newcomers like myself. With loads of side quests, mini-games, collectibles, battles, and the main storyline, players have enough content to keep them entertained for well over 100 hours. Hardcore fans can even embark on a harder draconian quest for a greater challenge. In terms of combat, battles are entirely turn-based, but you can choose whether you want to physically attack with a weapon or use magical powers, and you can use pet powers to chain attacks with party members. Furthermore, there's a skill board where you can tailor your battle style based on the skills and weapon type you choose. There's also a lot you can interact with in this game. I love how you can smash pots, open chests, grab twinkles, open wardrobes, read books on shelves, and you can even use a forge at campsites to craft and improve weapons, armour and accessories. Even though I'm not very fond of the traditional turn-based combat in games, I find myself returning to this game to see what else the world has to offer with each subsequent playthrough. The story is well paced, the towns and wider world is a joy to explore, the characters are memorable and eccentric, and the cutscenes are delightful. Although I am not basing this list on sales statistics, I believe it's worth mentioning that this game sold over 2 million physical copies on its first 2 days of sale in Japan alone. The game does not disappoint, and that is why Dragon Quest XI makes this list. Okay, I know there are some who would disagree with this entry entirely, however I can think of no other game announcement that has reduced fans to thankful tears of joy. Think about the reception that the announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake received at E3, it was incredible. Whether or not you are a hardcore fan who ended up disappointed with the remake, or if you are a series newcomer like myself and loved the remake, there is no denying that this game was a big deal. I'm aware that the majority of the fanbase believe that the original game is better, however I have yet to play the original game, and unfortunately the original was released in 1997 and therefore would not qualify for this particular list anyway. I chose Final Fantasy VII Remake over Final Fantasy XV for its wonderful graphics and delightful reimagining of a beloved story, albeit a short story compared to the original. This game did receive generally positive reviews across the board, however the gaming community does seem to be split down the middle. Some love it, some hate it, but personally I found it to be a thoroughly enjoyable experience. I was Final Fantasy curious for a long time, but I was barely alive when the original hit the scene, and as an adult I felt slightly deterred to join the series so late, with so many installments to choose from. It was the demo I played of Final Fantasy VII Remake Chapter 1 that convinced me to take the Final Fantasy plunge. I loved all the characters, their personalities were very strong, they were memorable, quirky and badass in their own way, and I truly believe that Barrett should have his own game. He was so fun to control. The graphics are stunning, I love the character design, and I really enjoyed the cyberpunk feel to the world. I also love the combat system, as I generally prefer live action combat over traditional turn-based, a statement that could legit get me killed, so I'll just brush past that quickly and say that this game made me truly care about the characters' fates. My only gripe with this game is that it's not kind to series newcomers at all, despite claiming to be a great game for Final Fantasy first-timers. Sometimes I felt like I was being punished for not playing the original first, and thus not understanding exactly what was happening. This is most apparent with the ending, which was very unsatisfying, not having anything explained because, of course, that is not where the original game ended, it's where the original game truly started. Or so I'm told. Despite feeling slightly left out in the cold in this regard, I thought this game was a fantastic and successful way to modernise a gaming classic and bring Final Fantasy to new audiences.
Arthur, no!
I don't even know where to start when talking about how much I adore Tales of Berseria. I recently created a best moments video for this game where I basically just gushed for 15 minutes about how amazing the story and the entire game is. I've most recently been playing Tales of Arise, and although the newest addition to the Tales of games is graphically impressive and considered a huge leap forward for the series, Berseria still remains my favourite. For those that haven't played the game, I highly recommend it. The story follows small-town homely young woman Velvet, who is transformed into a demon when she gets caught in the crossfire, trying to save her younger brother from being sacrificed in an effort to stop the spread of Demon Blight. Demon Blight is a virus believed to turn humans into demons. The story is quite complicated in a macro sense. That is a simplified version, but it is also a refreshingly simple revenge mission from Velvet's perspective. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the story because if you haven't played this game, then do go and play it, you will not regret it. The animation style is brilliant, the tone is quite dark, but the game can also be light-hearted sometimes, and there are moments of eccentricity that I adore, such as Magalou's menagerie moments and the cats. The skits are also very charming, and the dynamic between the characters is excellent because they all have very strong personalities that mesh very well together. The game isn't fully open world, but it does have some very large open areas that you can navigate, where you can collect things such as chests and cat spirits, and you are rewarded with alternate means of transportation when you reach Stoneberry later in the game, which I won't spoil here. In typical JRPG fashion, the overworld is crawling with monsters that you can battle for XP and gain new abilities as you level up. Combat-wise, it is primarily based around creating combos and using mystic arts to kick the crap out of foes. The fighting is so engaging and the boss battles are very enjoyable, partly due to the overlapping party chatter that makes things seem chaotic and the awesome animations that are tied to the mystic arts. Magalou's Ascending Angel being my favourite, it is so badass. One thing to note about this game is the ingenious ways the dungeons and other areas outside the main towns force the player to think about how to access the next area. For example, eating coloured fruit that allow you to pass through the barriers that correspond to the same colour in the Daval forest, or controlling the flow of water in the Palamedes temple and solving other puzzles. This game is also surprisingly huge. Not only do you have the lengthy and rich main storyline, but there are tons of other things you can do that keep you entertained, such as code red hunts, clearing out class 4 administrative zones, sending off the ship on expeditions, cooking, fishing, and much more. You can easily invest over 100 hours into this game and still discover new things. It actually surprises me how little attention this game gets. I hadn't even heard of this game until about a year ago. But as the co-creator of Amalgamingle gaming channel, I promise to put an end to that, so brace yourself for an influx of Tales of related content on this channel. So yes, Tales of Berseria makes this list for just being a wonderful gaming experience in every possible way. Nier Automata is a fantastic open-world action RPG set in a post-apocalyptic war between alien-crafted machines and androids of human creation. Players take control of your unit combat androids in this very interesting game that requires multiple playthroughs to unlock story elements and has 26 different endings. Now, I could sit here and pretend to completely understand the universe of Nier and the alternate timeline tie-in with the Drakengard series, but in all honesty, I don't. I've played the first playthrough that follows the perspective of 2B and 9S during the initial invasion, and that's the extent of my knowledge of this game. But what I did play stands out in my memory as being unique, innovative, challenging, beautiful, creative and fun. The hack and slash based combat was fantastic, particularly when coupled with the support provided by a flying robot assistant known as Pod that could launch a variety of ranged attacks, from simple but sustained gunfire to heavy explosive attacks. A very useful companion since enemy fire tends to rain down on you from all angles in a wonderfully chaotic fashion. I found the first section of the game to be the most challenging, but if you manage to get through the opening sequence, then the rest of the game should be a breeze. There are also certain scenarios that allow the player to take control of a flying mech to fight enemies in epic aerial battles. It's a very exciting and chaotic game, except when it's not. There are times when you are traversing different environments when you just want to stop and look at the beautiful surroundings, because graphically, Nier is gorgeous. The one and only thing that lets this game down for me is the world map. The map is a complete, incomprehensible mess to me. Maybe other people have much less trouble deciphering it and generally finding their way around, but for me it was quite a nightmare, and they even comment on how bad the map is several times in the game, as if it's meant to be a joke, but I just found it frustrating. But the map does not undermine how fantastic Nier is. The game keeps things fresh throughout with rideable mounts you can feed bait to, fishing, side quests, platforming elements, some amusing moments, and environments that can trigger camera shifts from the standard third-person perspective to a side-scrolling or top-down view, which I loved. There are also unlockable fast travel points and collectibles, as well as an unusual plug-in chips system which determines your character's attack, defense, support, hacking and system level, which can influence your playstyle based on what chips you equip or fuse. All in all, Nier is definitely one of the best JRPGs of the last decade. I've not played Nier Replicant yet, and I believe it was released in April this year, 2021. So let me know your thoughts on Replicant in the comments below. So, this entry will not come as a surprise for those watching this that are even remotely familiar with the channel, but my number one best JRPG of the past decade is, of course, Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. When I purchased this game alongside Dragon's Dogma and Far Cry, it was this game that seemed to be the biggest risk for me. I knew very little about the game other than the fact that it looked beautiful and I was intrigued. I also bought it at a time when I had never played a JRPG before, and thankfully this game is a great soft introduction to JRPG gameplay elements. I went in completely blind, and this game was so amazing to me in every possible way that it essentially ruined every single game I played after by giving me such high gameplay expectations. Every poor game that I played after Wrath of the White Witch has been doomed to my Ni no Kuni scrutiny. It made me so spoiled, and now I'm like, Why can't I fly around the world on the back of a purple dragon that I can summon and control? Ni no Kuni lets me fly around the world on the back of a purple dragon that I can summon and control. It's just madness. I wanted every game to be just like Ni no Kuni. Even when I played Berserker, a game I absolutely love, I was still a little disappointed by how the boat isn't controlled by the player and merely acts as a means of fast travel, because in Ni no Kuni I can free roam sail around the whole world map uninterrupted in a boat that I control. It took so long to lower my expectations of games. And I still do it now. Every new game I play is unintentionally measured against these impossible standards set by this wonderful game. Ni no Kuni was literally a game-changing experience for me, and I'm so proud of that pun because it actually did change the kind of games I played. Combat-wise, the game is a great mixture of turn-based and live action, where you can run around the battle area using commands to respond to real-time enemy attacks, and you can choose between sending out your familiars to fight, using Oliver's magic spells, or controlling companions and their familiars also. It works remarkably well. The characters are entertaining, the story and dungeons are full of delightful whimsy, the world is gorgeous, and the in-game rewards are doled out to the player at a perfect pace that feels extremely rewarding and earned. The world is also full of secrets, collectibles, and there are side quests and bounty hunts, none of which feel boring, pointless or monotonous. For those that haven't played the game, the story follows protagonist Oliver as he travels to another dimension populated by soulmates of his own world and tameable creatures you can battle called familiars. Guided by Mr. Drippy, Oliver learns of his destiny as the pure-hearted one and embarks on a quest to stop the Dark Jin Shadar and the White Witch from destroying the world. Oliver becomes a very powerful wizard and befriends a handful of companions on his journey. That's a very simplified version of the story, but this brilliant open world adventure is one that I would definitely recommend to anyone that hasn't played it, whether you are a JRPG fan or not. So there we have it, there's my top picks of the best JRPGs of the last decade. I will be creating a part 2 because there are a lot of brilliant games that I wanted to feature on this list, but I wanted to keep it to just my top 5 picks. I'm sure there are quite a lot of entries that people were surprised did not make the list, which is a shame, but do stay tuned for part 2 on the channel. I hope you enjoyed this list and please let me know in the comments if you agree with my entries. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate the support and we do upload on a regular basis. I've been Heather at Amalgamingle and thank you very much for watching. Woohoo!